All right, everybody, welcome to the Mortgage Coach podcast. Today, I'm going to be interviewing a leader this will be the second time. First time I interviewed him, he had just come out with a book called Start with a Win. He still has a podcast. It's Adam Contos. At the time that I had first met him, he was the CEO of Remax, so one of the largest real estate companies in the world. He is a Marine veteran, and if I recall, SWAT as well. I forgot the whole story of how you went from that to being the CEO of a one of the largest real estate companies in the country, but I'm sure it's an amazing story, Adam. And then today, I think I get this right, you are partners of a company called Area 15 Ventures, which is both a PE and a VC company, which I think is kind of a cool twist all on its own. Did I get all
Yeah, it's
that
great,
right?
Dave.
Yeah. So how close are you still to the real estate space or housing as a whole since your tenure of running Remax?
So I left Remax approximately 3 years ago, but since then I've stayed very close to the industry. I talked to a lot of brokerage owners. I talked to a lot of the key leaders in the space, as well as and infrastructure people. Obviously there's been a lot of changes since the class action lawsuits, a lot of continued dynamics, and I do keep my thumb on the pulse and my voice in the conversations in a lot of those.
Yeah, well, most of our audience is in mortgage. So while there are real estate leaders that will hear this, I might even mention this podcast from stage at the Housing Wire event next week. I think 2025 is a pretty pivotal year for both mortgage and real estate. Do
Yep.
you align? And I guess I have my reasons why I think it's such a pivotal year, but why do you think it's such a pivotal time for both mortgage and real estate?
Well, I think, mortgage and real estate are kind of like glove in hand, and they run together so well, particularly in the resale space, um, and as well as in the new home builder space, the first time buyer space, things of that nature. But ultimately, it comes down to, you've got a product and you have to fund the purchase of that product, and that's the responsibility of the mortgage side of the house. We have to work together on the sales aspect, both with the real estate agent and brokerage, as well as with the mortgage uh, originator, the brokerage, the underwriter. All of the different key players in the transaction have to be in alignment in order for things to work. And ultimately, we all have the same goal, and that's get these transactions across the closing table so that somebody can be in their new home and everybody in line can move on to the next deal. So it's very pivotal that everybody is in lockstep and understanding what's going on in the space.
Yeah, yeah. The term I've heard a couple times lately is tip to tail home ownership platform. And so now you're seeing some very big money, smart money get on the offense and bring it all together. I mean, the best example of that is this year's Rocket acquiring Redfin, 62 million purchase consumers that they have eyeballs on and attention on a monthly basis, and then 1 in 6 mortgages in servicing with Mr. Cooper. So, like, how big of a deal do you think that is for both mortgage and real estate?
Well, I think it takes a very long look down the future of the space. These people are thinking way ahead, but they're also thinking right now. And I'll use a couple of cliche sayings. The first one is your pipeline is your lifeline. And when you take a look at the pipeline of the mortgage, origination, mortgage applications, things like that, having a good, strong pipeline, both a inactive and an active pipeline, is incredibly important. And these organizations understand that, and that volume of data around the people that have had or are thinking about getting a mortgage or even a refi or movements or something like that. Some people have to move at some point. So I think these major organizations are looking far ahead, not just in the mechanics of the transaction itself, but also in the data infrastructure and how AI can apply to that in order to create efficiencies and maintaining the relationship with those customers into the future. And they're doing a very good job of realizing that. We all need to recognize there are some strong brains out there working in this space, and we need to maintain a good good touch with our customers, as they know who our customers are. If we think it's our customer, but they think it's theirs, somebody's going to end up with the next transaction with that person.
Yeah, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. And really in the mortgage space, multiple people lose every time someone wins. I mean, consumers
Right.
are shopping, whether or not they double app, whether or not they put the grind on whoever they application with, they're shopping. I mean, if they just say the word mortgage, if they search online, they are getting mortgages. Like everybody is omni shopping. So one of the piece of advice, and well, we have large national platforms, consumer direct is clients, some of the biggest in the country. By and large, a lot of the users of our technology are local referral-based mortgage professionals, or they're IMBs, independent mortgage bankers that have local referral-based loan officers. And I've been saying that the key to winning going forward for you guys is you've got to win your database and you have to win locally. You need to learn how to make that proximity, that location that you're in, like own the zip code. And if you can own your database and you can own the zip code, you're gonna be fine. Like, bring on Amazon Mortgage. Any thoughts on that?
No, I would absolutely agree. We need to take a look at the different profit levers in our business. Looking at Facebook is not a profit lever, by the way, folks. So you've got to actively be pursuing the connection with your database, as Dave is talking about here. Ultimately, it comes down to, top of mind is first in line when it comes to that transaction. People are going to want to talk to somebody first. You want to be the first one that they talk to. And you're not top of mind if you're not in regular contact with them. Big piece of that currency is trust. They need to trust that you have their best interest in mind and that you have a great deal of knowledge in what's happening currently. Everybody's afraid as change happens. So for them to understand that you're their lifeguard in the mortgage process is incredibly important. None of these things happen passively. They all happen because of your active outreach. And I've even talked to a few, small business leaders in this space recently, and it's come down to, how many hours a day are you actually face to face with people in human to human communication, and how do you choose who to communicate with? So you can add a great deal of tools in order to maximize that, but ultimately it comes down to some of that hard work continuing on a daily basis.
I love that. First of all, you've given me some great quotes, like pipeline is your lifeline. Pretty catchy, pretty memorable. I love profit levers. Top of mind is first in line. What are, knowing that you're talking to an audience and let's just say it's the C-suite of uh, hundreds of local referral-based mortgage professionals, what advice do you have for them over the next really couple of years? Because when I say this is a pivotal year, it's accelerating. Like it's jaw-dropping how fast AI is evolving. Like I really think this shift started when the iPhone hit 2007, but
Yep.
it's accelerating. And I have this thesis that over the next 2 years, we're gonna like think of the change that's happened over the past 18. That level of change is going to happen over 2, 3 years. And I mean, that's pulling a page from Moore's Law. By the way, you guys can Google Moore's Law, put an E on it. I'm not going to explain what it is. Many of you know, but like, I think Moore's Law is like old school. Like Moore's Law is slow now. Do you agree that there's that much change and like this is the year decisions need to be made, investments need to be made, profit levers needed to be leveraged? You align with that?
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. I heard it put best today when I had a conversation with some key business leaders. We need to discuss the undiscussable.
Ooh,
And what what is meant by that is some of the things that we're avoiding because they seem like hard work or scary because we haven't done them before. For instance, what's your AI strategy? You mentioned AI. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm using Chat GPT to make my emails or something of that nature." But ultimately, let's figure out what are the pillars in our organization that create profits, and where can we integrate AI into those things in order to create greater scale in our outreach and our cultivation of our relationships. So we need to discuss the hard things. By the way, I've heard it said many times, and I agree with it. AI is not an IT function. it's a CEO function. You've got to be on top of what your AI strategy is in the C-suite, and there are a lot of organizations that can help you with that, or just put somebody in charge of that in the C-suite and have them in charge of it. If you're you know a, a small mortgage brokerage operation, then dedicate 30 minutes to an hour a day of how am I going to build my AI strategy. It's been said time and time again, AI is not going to put you out of business. The person doing your job using AI is going to put you out of business. So we have to really consider those aspects of it. But ultimately, when we look at the housing market, there are going to be, let's call it 4 million resales in the next 12 months. Let's call it that. That's probably a very safe estimate. We know that pricing, strangely enough, is continuing to increase by approximately 3%, which is that's surprising given the fact that we have 500,000 more listings than we have buyers out there. And so we've got a substantial change in the marketplace where we should be seeing prices go down, but interest rates are not going down at this point. They probably will towards the end of the year. We might see a little bit of a downward pressure on it, but the economy is still trying to understand the new administration and what's happening here. So it's going to take a little time for things to settle in, but you need to be working behind the scenes on cultivating that personal growth of your network and how tight you are by discussing the undiscussable in your business circles to make sure that you're working on the right things instead of just the easy things.
I love that. And I would just push everybody like really right now, maybe if you're watching this on YouTube, put it on pause. What are two undiscussables that you should be talking about right now that you're not talking about right now? And then what is your AI strategy? And do you have a roadmap? Like, what are you doing personally today? And then organizationally, what are you doing? How are you using it? Because to your point, most of you who listen to my podcast, like Rocket is a new level of competitor, especially when it comes to your rate and term refis, in terms of what are most at risk. If you're local referral-based lender or loan officer, rate and term refis are most at risk, and they will be automated between the cost structures of servicers and the technology and the ability for them to execute on that technology at scale. What's least at risk is your first-time home buyers. Like that's a place where education, you can really leverage your proximity. You can own the zip code, both from a knowledge base, from a connection base. So, but what's your AI strategy? And by the way, what is your strategy? Any leadership you want to give? I mean, like you're a CEO, but you also help and consult and invest. Any just words of wisdom, knowing, kind of following what I just said?
No, I completely agree with you, Dave. And what you discuss with your network is spot on and incredibly powerful and important. Yeah, I would take it back to, we all know that it's about trust. And how can we instill the maximum amount of trust in the people that we're in contact with? Because trust is going to be that currency in order to get them to speak with you first. How do we instill the trust? Well, we have to be present. Presence creates trust. And that's incredibly important, especially in some of these niche marketplaces. You look at VA loans and some of the specialized loans out there. Find something you're really good at and build a great deal of trust in that particular vertical and work it. There are plenty of buyers and refinances that go on in these different spaces. I was talking to somebody, gosh, I was talking to a nurse at a doctor's office the other day, and she's a veteran, and she's like, yeah, I have to go refi, and I'm doing a veteran VA loan. I'm like, do you have somebody good? And she goes, I think so. And I said, well, I think you should know so. How do you increase that? She's like, well, I have to trust that they know what they're doing. So, it comes down to have the conversations, be top of mind, be really good and current with your data, and be there to help people. So pick something that you're really good at and very directed at, and dig deep. There are plenty of customers in each of these verticals. Go fill that pipeline in that vertical that you are the expert at and build a great deal of trust currency and then work it.
Yeah, and trust in a differentiated way. I actually posted, this is Thursday, June 5th, and I just did a post. I was leading at a 2-day event that was put on. Someone asked me, like, Dave, what's the story and how you founded Mortgage Coach? And I told them, and I'll summarize it really quick and then have you give some closing thoughts on this. But I was a top producing loan officer. My value prop was my advice makes a difference. Like, I put that on my brochure, and I didn't want it to be bullshit. Like I wanted to be like tangible and real. And I had also come up with this thesis called wow selling, where I had my breakthrough as a salesperson when I just realized that if I could surpass someone's expectations at scale systematically from the first 30 seconds, the first 5 minutes, the first 30 minutes, like I would win. And so okay. And I was even going to write a book called Wow Selling. And then I was reading a book, this is all over the course of a couple of years. I was reading a book on Six Sigma and I came across this term that, I'd never forget, moments of truth. There's touch points, pre-transaction, during transaction, post-transaction that make or break the customer experience. And I had landed on when a loan officer quotes rate, here's your payment, here's your cash to close, and they give a fee worksheet, that's a moment of truth. And I said, how could I, one, execute on my advice makes a difference, two, surpass expectations. And I came up with, well, what if I always gave people options? What if I showed the cost of those options over 5 years and 10 years? And what if I did things like, hey, if you prepaid the mortgage, how much interest would you save and how much faster would you pull it off? If you put less down and you kept it with your financial planner, like really helped people make a better decision, like I'd wow them. My advice would make a difference. And by the way, they would trust me because I was showing an uncommon level of transparency. And so here's my thought. I think just about everybody listening right now is like, duh. Like that makes sense, Dave. But here I think is our industry's challenge, Adam, is adoption of loan officers. And it's not just adoption of technology, it's adoption of best practices. Like what I just described as a best practice that technology can enable, but actually getting your army of loan officers to execute on that best practice consistently is the challenge. Any thoughts off of that?
Yeah, this is a great topic, Dave, because I think it's one that we need to hone in on, and that's that we do become inconsistent as we exercise our entrepreneurial spirit. Because we just start chasing the shiny thing, Oh, Dave just came up with this, statement. I heard it twice now. I'm gonna run after that. Great, but be consistent. And this consistency is what creates that comfort in the consumer. So people, when they see something over and over and over again, their trust level goes up, their belief and their comfort level goes up in it, because they see that you're committed to that. And I think ultimately what we need to do is take off our entrepreneur hat a little bit, and don't yell at me quite yet for this, but follow me. Take off your entrepreneur hat and put on your operator hat. Because your operator hat means you're very good succinctly at certain things, and stay very good succinctly and consistently on those things, and find clarity in those things and how you discuss them with people. Because all of those things will increase the comfort level of the consumer and get them to listen to you more. Pick a stick and stick with it, for crying out loud. Maybe your stick is, I'm going to lower your monthly payments. And it doesn't have to necessarily be just the mortgage, but collectively, how I can help you get ready for that next step in your mortgage life, in your financing life, because you're their financial expert when it comes to those things. So think about, how do you get consistent with somebody? Maybe it's just a red, yellow, green on what the mortgage market is right now. Is now a good time to think about it? Is now a good time to talk about it? Here's my opinion. It's a yellow today. Here's why. That type of thing. Be something to these people that is consistent in order to create the comfort, and they will start listening to you more. And that is how you continue to cultivate that customer base.
Love it, my friend. Well, hey, I know we've got to wrap things up here. I want to make sure people know, one, how to follow you post this event. I want to make sure they know like your podcast, start with a win. I love that. I'm big on win by noon. The way you win the day, you win by noon, and the way you win by noon is you win by 7. You got to win your morning. So you and I are very like-minded. But what are the best places to follow you? Maybe, give a little bit of a commercial on your book and just what is unique about it.
Sure. My book is Start with a Win. You can find it on Amazon. It's about business and personal growth and success. So is my podcast. It's called Start with a Win. You can find it where all of the podcasts are. I've done interviews of a lot of different small business perspectives. Don't only listen to your space. Listen to outside spaces when it comes from to small business perspective, because we can learn leadership from all over the place. And that's what I've been working on, is trying to interview people who have great leadership principles. Check me out at adamcontos.com. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter there.
All right, guys. So there'll be a link down below to Adam's. Sign up for his newsletter. Check out his podcast. Adam, I appreciate you making time for our second podcast together, and I'm glad that you're out there rocking it.
Thanks, Dave. It's great to see you.
All right. So, guys, if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe right now. If you are not following savageinsights.com, that is what whoever I'm interviewing next, whatever I think is most important, will be at savageinsights.com. And then there's a mobile club, the Savage Insider Club. So, about 2 links down, there'll be a number. Text that number. If you are a manager and you want to turn your loan officers into modern mortgage advisors, make sure that you're signed up. Make sure they're signed up. This is a wrap, guys. Take care, everybody.